A new approach to race and policing from the top as the violence is ongoing is where we start this hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Ashley Parker, Washington Post White House bureau chief and an MSNBC political analyst, is here. Also joining us, Eddie Glaude, chair of the Department of African American Studies at Princeton University and an MSNBC contributor's back. And the Reverend Al Sharpton's here, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation and the president of the National Action Network. Rev, there's so much new information coming in just in the last hour. I want to get your thoughts on all of it, but let me start first. You're in the center of so many of these tragedies because the families reached out to you. Can you talk about this latest incident and Daunte Wright's family?
I talked today with Daunte Wright's girlfriend, who they have a child, and I've talked to the father, and they're devastated. And they're devastated because you're talking about a 20-year-old young man losing his life over some tags of a car and a stop to ask him about tags, and then they come up with a misdemeanor warrant. It makes absolutely no sense to them, but this is again a question of how we tolerate policing in certain communities. There's no doubt in many minds that had this been a 20-year-old kid in another community, particularly in a pandemic when there's a backlog of trying to get your tags upgraded or updated, that they would have been told, make sure you get your tags straight. If there was a misdemeanor warrant, you need to go get this straight. Or they would have said, we could follow him home if he got in the car to pull off. But to shoot him, and your excuse is it was an accident, a 26-year veteran that doesn't know the difference between the weight and size of a gun and the weight and the size of a taser, and you put one in your side that is dominant, if you're right-handed, your right side, if you're left, the opposite, and the other one on the other, this just does not wash to the family, to the community, and in the middle of the George Floyd trial, just a mile down the road. So what it is saying is the continuation of a double standard in terms of our communities when it comes to policing.
Rev, because the community listens to you, and we'll let you work out whatever broadband issue you were having there. There have been obviously just raw emotion, grief, anger, rage, despair, people spilling into the streets. What is your message to folks taking to the streets?
Anger and rage is understandable. The question is whether we do anything, are we going to get results? I think the answer is that we must, as you started this show, say to this administration and this U.S. Senate that we voted in disproportionate numbers, and this Congress, that we need to see laws. All of this about healing without dealing with the affliction. The affliction is that police are permitted by law to get away with this because there's no strong federal laws. This George Floyd Justice and Policing Act would give a real criminal act that these police could be measured and prosecuted by, and remove qualified immunity where they are civilly responsible and at risk. Until police know they will pay. Just today in Kenosha, Wisconsin, they said we are not going to penalize the police in the department for what they did when they shot a young man that we saw the video on that. Until there is enforcement of law, there are laws and then the enforcement. Why would bad cops not act bad when they know they can get away with it? How do we straighten out people in the community? They go to jail. They lose something. There's a penalty. There is no penalty for bad policing in this country. That is the problem. And until we deal with that, you're going to keep having various expressions of rage, whether it is those of us that do it peaceful or those that don't. I don't condone violence. I don't tell people that they're right to take property. But how do we keep telling them that when you don't hear from us that are peaceful or not? The people that are inciting the violence are the people that keep excusing bad policing with bad laws and no enforcement. That's the people inciting this.
Rev, Susan Rice, now President Biden's head of domestic policy said this: based on close, respectful consultation with partners in the civil rights community, the administration made the considered judgment that a police commission at this time would not be the most effective way to deliver on our top priority in this area, which is to sign the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act into law. What has to happen for this to pass and for the president to be able to sign it into law?
We need to put this before the Senate. It has gone before the House. It has passed. We start our National Action Network convention here in New York tomorrow morning. It's a virtual convention. Attorney General Garland and many people in the president's cabinet are going to speak virtually. We've invited the president. We need the law passed. And if we cannot get enough Republicans, then we need to get rid of the filibuster. It's already passed the House. Schumer needs to bring it to the Senate. And if they will not pass it with 60 votes, then we need to kill the filibuster or find a way to go around it. But we need to make law. How did we deal with Jim Crow, Nicole? How did we go from the back of the bus? It wasn't the riots. It wasn't even just the marches. It was the marches and all led to the 64 Civil Rights Act. And it became against federal law to tell us we had to sit in back of the bus. It didn't matter what the state of Alabama said. It was federal law. It was federal law that we could check in hotels. How do we deal with policing? We need federal law. This is not hard. This is what we've done before with any civil rights abuse. This is what we need to do now. And let's stop acting like we don't know how to do it. It's the law, and every state would have to abide by federal law. It's right there in front of the Senate. We have a majority in the Senate if we just do a majority vote 50-50 with Vice President Harris breaking the tie. This doesn't take rocket science. It takes some courage to seize the time.
Well, and Eddie Glaude, let's also not pretend like we don't understand what is standing between the Biden agenda getting passed and not. What do you think should happen immediately to let the federal legislation that would represent just monumental change in the legislative structure around police conduct?
Well, pressure has to be brought on Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, those who are within the Democratic Party who hold a particular conception of policing that we think is problematic. We need to bring pressure to bear so that the rules of the Senate can be, adjusted with regards to the filibuster in this instance, Nicole, if I understand the question correctly, so that we can do exactly what Reverend Sharpton has said. I think we need to just pan back for a quick second. Think about the very framework of 20th century policing in this country. When we think about how black communities have been policed in the early part of the 20th century, defined by a society that actually viewed black folk as second-class citizens. Our communities were supposed to be surveilled and contained. Think about how that then transitioned into a discourse of law and order, where even if you read the Kerner Commission report, Nicole, there's a sense in which we are policed and surveilled and contained. Then that bleeds into the war on drugs and how that then devastates our community. In each instance, a form of policing isn't to serve and protect. It's to police. It's to surveil. It's to contain. It's to incarcerate. It's to view black communities as threat. So there's the political and legislative piece that we're talking about, that Reverend Al has been hitting hard, that you're asking the right questions. But if we don't change the framing of policing, we're going to have to bury another Daunte Wright. Parents are going to have to worry about their babies. See, this is the thing. We have to honestly confront who we are. Policing in this country is rooted deeply in racist presuppositions about the criminality of black and brown folk. And until we honestly admit that, right, we can't make moves in these other ways. Now, let's just say that at the end of the day, and I'm talking too much here, at the end of the day, it will require adjusting the filibuster and pushing Manchin and Sinema and others into a corner and asking them to make a choice with regards to this issue, Nicole.
Well, I need you to talk more. I mean, why is that where we are? Why are we satisfied to say one of the two major political parties is so racist that they're not even available to us? We need to pressure Joe Manchin to change the filibuster. Is that where we are, Eddie?
I think so. Look, we have to I've been saying this for a long time. We have to be honest with ourselves. there's a political party in our country that's beholden to a certain set of insidious views about who belongs and who do not belong, right? We need to be clear about that. And then there are those of us who are kind of trying to be moderates, who think we can work with those who hold that view. There is no compromise, Nicole, if the polity will be saved. There's no compromise with those who believe that America belongs only to white people. If they believe that, they seal the fate of the country. We have to finally admit that, I think.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.